Today's topic, as you can see, in green for St. Patrick's Day, you can see my gestures over here, is getting your important pipeline information noticed. And we wanted to have this because there are quite a few areas in pipeline where you've got the opportunity to really add emphasis to the data that's in pipeline. And that's really helpful in cases where you need to do so, where you want it to stand out, you want people to make sure it's noticed, make sure that they take action, etc. So today we'll go over those particular areas. So let me hop over to pipeline. So the first thing I want to go over relates to at mentioning. You can see over here on the left and on my for my tasks, a couple of them are highlighted green. At mentioning allows you to mention either a person or a group of people and highlight those tasks for those people. So in other words, whenever that person or someone within that group views the task, either on a transaction here, on the tasks list, which I'll open up in a separate tab here, right? You see some of these are green, or when they're viewing the tasks in their daily reminder email, okay? As you can see here, they'll be highlighted green for whatever your purpose is, right? You want them to notice it because it's one that they'll be working on typically, or for whatever reason you want it to stand out for those people, okay? So at mentioning, let me hop back over to the transaction, is done by simply mentioning, starting with the at symbol, that person, and there are several ways to name them. In my case here, I'm logged in as Carol, and so it's mentioning me here as an individual at Carol Demo, or by mentioning a whole role or group of people. So all of the admins, whatever people are named under manage users in the role field, in this case, admin. And sometimes it could be, you know, TC or office staff, whatever, again, that role is under manage users. You can mention them and it'll highlight those tasks for those people. So that's one nice prominent way of getting tasks more noticeable for whoever your intended user is, okay? So that's the first way, is at mentioning. And if you've got any questions or want to read more about that, you can visit our help article and type in at mention. Or if you're on, let me go over to company settings and checklists. If you're on a particular checklist, which is the best place to at mention someone, right? Because if you do it at the checklist template level, then when this checklist gets added to transactions, the at mention will already be there. But again, if you ever have any questions, there's a link right here, how to highlight or assign tasks to individuals or groups using at mention, okay? So again, that's the first way of highlighting data to get noticed. The second way is in your messages. So let's hop back over to this transaction here and open our message area. Let me take this information out. Okay. So when you're typing messages or using messages that you've saved in your template, you've got the ability to do some formatting to make them stand out. Let me open a message here that doesn't really have much formatting. So this is a message that I've created that's got lots of transaction information, some key dates and timeline, some contact information, etc. And if I preview this, I'll see that that's quite a bit of data to chew and process, right? Particularly if I'm trying to find specific information, I've got to read through a lot of information to find and pull out anything that's important. Nothing really stands out, it's all the same. You can see I've used some capitalization here, but it doesn't do a whole lot as far as organizing or highlighting any data. So let me go out of this hide preview and show you a version that does have some formatting. Okay, so now when I preview this version, you can see that I've used some title formatting. I've got some bolding going on. I could also have included some italics. Let's go ahead and see how I can do that. So let's hide this preview. Maybe I want to emphasize up here, maybe make a note after this, you know, a special note here, and I'm going to make it italics. See, right, whatever my note is there. And you can see when I preview it, it's italicized there. Or maybe I want to even make it italicized and bold, right? So I do some special characters there. And all of this formatting, all these formatting options are available. Again, you can see I bolded it and italicized it there, right, to make it stand out a little bit more. All of these are under formatting tips. So if you go here, click here, it'll open up our help site that shows you all the formatting options you've got, including that header that I did, bolding. You can see you can do lists here. I'll show you in a moment, etc. Okay. So, and again, to show you lists, let's come down here. I'm a huge advocate of bulleted lists or even numbered lists. They just make things so much more readable. Anything that is in a series, almost always I'll pull it out of a narrative and put it into bullets because, again, that readability, the glanceability of it. So let's say I had item 1 here, item 2, item 3, and you can see how it will turn those into bullets for you. Or a numbered list. Particularly love numbered lists if you're going to refer back to them, because you can refer to the number that it refers to. Use that all the time too, just super helpful when appropriate for it, depending on what your message is. Okay. So again, use that formatting, particularly for your message templates, because it's already set up that way. You don't have to do it each time, and build them to have the information that you need to stand out nicely. Okay. Cool deal. So that's how you can manually set up your formatting. There is some automatic formatting that happens whenever you do your dragging and dropping. Let me get rid of this information here. So when you drag contacts, whether it's contacts that you've added to the transaction or agents, when you drag them to the message area, the formatting is already done for you. So you can see if I preview this, it nicely formats, it does some bolding in this particular case, etc. If you drag and drop, let me show this completed one here. When you drag and drop individual tasks to the message area, it will also do a little extra formatting for you. You can see there's some italics there, etc. And then also when you drag and drop doc comments into the message area, it nicely formats those also, bolding the doc name, italicizing the time and date stamp and who actually made the note, etc. Okay, so some automatic formatting that happens for you. You don't even have to do except for to drag the information to that message area. Alrighty, but again, it kind of reinforces how you can make your information stand out when you see that you've got those options using those particular formatting tools. Okay. Next area I wanted to show you is, let's hop down to our message area. Let me actually collapse this, hide, and collapse. Okay. It relates to document labels. Okay. If you set up document labels in your account, which you do under admin settings, and let me go ahead and open that in a separate tab. And then under document labels, you can specify any number up to 14 specific document labels that are appropriate for your office related to tagging documents, right? Maybe you want to tag whether they're missing signatures or whether they're a rejected offer. For broker review is a popular one, so you can identify which documents actually need broker review, and the managing broker can go there and only look at those docs that need review, okay? Or it could be that you use these to sort of assign documents for people to look at. So you use people's names. Whatever works and helps support your workflow is fair game for these. They're color coded, so they add a little flag, which I'll show you in a second. But again, you can set up as many or as few as you like, up to 14, and use whichever colors that you want to assign them to. So heading back over to the transaction here to see them in action. So let's say I wanted to, let me hide this comment. Let's say I wanted to say that this purchase contract were missing signatures, right? I just labeled it as missing signatures. So here I've, in addition to obviously categorizing your docs based on whatever the label represents, it also color codes them. So I can see right here at a glance, all of the reds are missing signature, right? Or maybe all of the, let's say I need this one to be for broker review. All of the yellow ones are for broker review, okay? And then I can sort these by clicking, well, let me add a couple more so it's more relevant. Let me just do some random ones here for broker review and for broker review. and a missing and a missing. Okay, and so when I click the label option, it'll sort those for me so I can see them all in a group, which can be helpful again because you are typically categorizing them. Really helpful if you're storing rejected offers for a particular listing, right? So lots of benefits there, but again, allows you to make something stand out for its particular purpose, missing a signature, needing a broker review, etc. These document labels transcend across different areas. So I can see them here in my doc list for on a particular transaction. I can also see them here under unreviewed, which I'll open in a separate tab, right? So I can see my doc labels here. So back to that example about the managing broker, if I'm the managing broker and really only want to see those documents that are for broker review, I can do that, filter those docs, and just see those that I'm supposed to be taking a look at. And I can bookmark this page if I want to also, so that I can always come straight to here if I'm the managing broker. Okay, and then lastly, under unassigned, those doc labels they're not right here right now, but they carry over as well. Or you can even start them here and then they'll carry over to the transaction. And then a little sneak peek for you. We are in the process of looking at allowing these doc labels, as well as another benefit for that, but particularly right now, doc labels to be assigned to the doc name. In other words, if you are, let's head over to doc labels. I'm sorry, over to doc names. If you've got a doc name, let's say for the appraisal report, generally you want that to be put into the, generally you want that to have a particular doc label. Then you would be able to specify, always attach this doc label for any time an appraisal report is updated. Okay, so a little sneak peek there that that's something that we're looking at. And that could help you save time because whenever that doc name is used, the label's already attached. You don't need to go do it separately. Alrighty. Okay, so doc labels, nice little visual indicator of what category a doc has been placed into. Okay, and speaking of visual indicators, you know, I couldn't have this webinar without talking about visual indicators if we're talking about making something stand out or highlighted. And the visual indicators, as if anyone who's been on these webinars probably already knows, allows you to use emojis, the less formal name for that, to make things stand out. Particularly some areas that can be helpful are for your transaction name. So let's say I edit this transaction and I want to add a visual indicator to the front of this name, either to help categorize it, right? Maybe I sort of assign all of a particular symbol or a visual indicator to a certain person and she knows that those are hers. For example, let me go here and I'm going to right click to get to emojis, right click right when I'm in any field to get to emoji, and then find a nice, very clean, very simple. We like to emphasize because we don't want to start adding a bunch of clutter. We just want it to be a nice, clean symbol you can potentially add. So I'm going to go over here to symbols and find something really super clean. Scroll down, maybe this one here, right? And a space, and then save that transaction. So now I've got this transaction name that starts with this nice visual indicator, which is really just an emoji, which is really just a piece of text, which means that I can, let me see if I can edit it and go snag a copy of it, which means that I can copy it, I can search by it, right? Search by it, find all of those transactions that have that in there, right? So again, if I'm using this to sort of flag or help highlight something for a particular person who might be assigned to orange, she can come and search for anything that's got this orange dot in there. She can even add it as a shortcut and maybe save it as my transactions, right? And save it as a shortcut. I cannot because I'm at my limit, which by the way, sneak peek, this limit's going to increase very soon to 8 instead of 5. Anyway, so that's one of many ways to use this, a particular visual indicator is in your transaction name. And this, again, this is just a piece of text. So this dot is going to appear anywhere your transaction name appears. So keep that in mind. And nearly all cases that will be helpful. In some cases, people don't want to see it in their email. And when they send an email, they don't want to see that as part of the transaction name. There's a way to suppress that. Take a look at our visual indicators recording of the webinar to learn a lot more about how you can use these, things to sort of be aware of, and just again, general applications. It's a pretty good, useful webinar that we think you'll find helpful if you need to use these for that particular reason. Okay, so that's the first area. A lot of people use visual indicators. Second area would be, let me head back to the transaction I was on. Actually, it's right there. Second area could be in your tasks. And I'm going to sort of reiterate, because I just kind of glossed over it a moment ago, to keep these simple, right? Maybe just use basic symbols. Same goes for here in the task list. Don't want you to get too crazy, because as you can see even here, these lists, you want these lists to stay clean and easy to read. And again, as you can see here already, they're starting to get a little bit busy, which reminds me to mention that for the @mention that I talked about a moment ago, you can turn these off so that you don't see them. You can turn off the visibility of the @mention portion of these tasks. So even though you've @mentioned people like @admin and @CarolDemo, you don't have to actually see those if they're not useful for you to do so. So I could go to my settings option here and do hide @mention, and it hides all of those. And as you can see, this is a lot easier to read without those. Okay, so just FYI there. You can also do that when you're on your tasks page, hide @mention as well. Actually, they're already hidden. Okay, you see how much cleaner that makes your task lists and easier to read. But again, on that note, want to make sure that if you do decide to use visual indicators here, keep them nice and simple. If I were to add, for example, we had someone, I think, on a recent webinar who asked, they had a particular task that they wanted to sort of anchor and flag to the top and flag it as being really necessary, et cetera. And they ended up putting a flag for that particular task. So they just went to their, again, right click to get to their emojis, searched right here for flag. And I think they selected the red, or we selected the red flag in the demo there, right? And then added that, saved that, and then they've got this nice sort of anchored task at the top there. So nice, clean, simple. Again, don't want to get too crazy. Don't want a whole bunch of symbols even if you do use a simple one, just because that may still make it difficult to read if they're complex. If you just got maybe just some colored dots, that's perfectly fine. But again, don't make it too busy, because then it starts to mess with the readability of the tasks in there, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Alrighty. But let me, before I leave that, just reiterate the benefit of, let me go back to emoji here, the benefit of that search part of that. When you search, you can search for anything that you're looking for, whether it's a document, if I could spell, right? A document, or maybe an envelope, right? If it's going to be an email or whatever, right? Whatever may be most appropriate for you. Okay, lots of flexibility there. Okay, so that is the second area. And third area I wanted to show you about that we've had a few requests for, and that is how to highlight information that's in the more info field, right? The more info field is used to store whatever information you don't have a field for. So that's a catch-all for anything that you're throwing in there. And sometimes people may want to emphasize a particular piece of information within there. So let me go ahead and edit this transaction. Come to more info. It could be that you want to highlight it again with something that's just kind of blocky, a big block of some sort. Maybe, big purple block, or maybe something like this, right? Or something that's more indicative of what's going on. Maybe it's time sensitive, whatever, right? Whatever you're going to put there. Hollis had a great example of someone who wanted to highlight whether the buyer or seller had signed the contract, right? And so we recommended to them that they do something kind of like this, and, or they could just go like that, right? Once they've answered that. Okay, so you can get creative because there are, as you can see, a million emojis here that may represent what you're trying to display there. And the point there was for it to be more at a glance rather than having to read something. Okay, so that certainly can be a benefit. All right. And I think that's it that we've got here for how to highlight information so that it gets seen and hopefully ultimately gets completed and acted upon.